Illinois Business Hall of Fame is proud to present the story of Gus E. Brick Lundberg. This story describes the career of a successful businessman and provides insights into the history of the American fast food industry. The story also shows how one business leader balanced the demands of his job with his responsibilities to his family and his community. Brick Lundberg was born on February 7, 1920, in the small town of Kewanee, Illinois. His father was a local automobile dealer. As Brick grew up in Kewanee, he and his father frequently talked about the difference between living for one's business and the business of living. By the time he had graduated from high school, Brick had concluded that he would seek a business career which would enable him to become active in civic affairs, devote time to his family, and give him time to work on his own personal development. Brick enrolled in the College of Commerce at the University of Illinois and began to seriously examine career alternatives. While at the university, he met a vivacious young co-ed named Eleanor Miller. Brick and Eleanor were married 2 days after Brick's graduation. Theirs was to be an exciting and successful marriage. Following graduation, Brick also received an Air Force commission. He was sent overseas as an adjutant with the 387th Bomb Group. That group had a distinguished war record, due in part to the outstanding esprit de corps which Brick helped to establish among the group members. For 30 years after the war, Brick and Flight Surgeon Harry Schwartz organized biannual reunions of the group. After the war, Brick decided to become a small businessman. With financial backing from Flight Surgeon Schwartz, Brick opened a Culligan soft water franchise in Macomb, Illinois in 1946. In 1947, Brick and his partner opened additional franchises in Kewanee and Kenosha, Wisconsin. Then, in 1948, Brick decided to return to Kewanee, where he would run a single Culligan franchise, become active in civic affairs, help his 73-year-old father retire from the automobile business, and raise his family. In Kewanee, Brick constructed a large new Culligan building. In the back, he put a shop where his father could tinker with mechanized inventions. Brick even organized a marketing company called Kewanee Wright to market some of his father's inventions. One of Brick's favorites was an aluminum potato baker. Over 2 million of them were sold by Kewanee Wright. In civic affairs, Brick took the leadership in an effort to have an armory established in Kewanee. He was active in the J.C.'s. They named him Outstanding Young Man of the Year in Kewanee in 1951 and again in 1955. In 1955, Brick was also selected as the Outstanding Young Man in the state of Illinois. It was also in 1955 that Brick heard about a new drive-in restaurant concept that was being franchised by a Chicago entrepreneur named Ray Kroc. Kroc's concept involved mass-producing a limited menu of hamburgers, French fries, and drinks. Tight quality controls and clean surroundings were also key parts of Kroc's concept. Kroc himself discovered the idea being practiced by the McDonald brothers in this California drive-in restaurant. The brothers had no desire to expand and agreed to let Kroc use their concepts and their name for a fee. Kroc returned to his home in the Chicago area and opened this prototype store in Des Plaines, Illinois. Then, Kroc began offering McDonald's franchises to other investors. Among the early franchisees were Brick Lundberg and his three partners, Paul White, Robert Wenger, and W.K. Davidson. Friends of the four men warned them that the McDonald's drive-in concept would be a failure. But the four were willing to take the risk. They opened a McDonald's store in Urbana, Illinois in June 1956, and much to the amazement of their friends, the store was immediately successful. Kroc had given Brick and his partners the rights to open McDonald's restaurants in a broad band of territory in central Illinois. Therefore, once the Urbana store was operating profitably, Brick's group made plans to open a second unit in Peoria and a third in Decatur. They signed leases for the land in both locations and made arrangements to erect restaurants on the sites. But at that moment, Ray Kroc informed them that he was changing the terms of their franchise agreement. Kroc had taken in a partner, a man named Harry Sonneborn. Sonneborn had devised a brilliant financing arrangement whereby McDonald's would take out all leases of land for the restaurants of franchisees' stores. The franchisees would then sublet the land and stores from McDonald's and pay a subleasing fee that included a tidy profit for McDonald's. By the late 1960s, when this system had been perfected, the fees paid by a franchisee to McDonald's were 2.5% of gross sales for the regular franchise fee and 8% of gross sales as a rental fee. Many observers argue that with this change in terms, McDonald's had become a real estate business as well as a food service business. Brick and his partners were angered by this change in franchise terms. They saw it as a violation of their original contract with Kroc and as an unwelcome cost. They therefore decided to become franchisors of their own hamburger drive-in chain. They named their new company Sandy's to symbolize the Scott-like thriftiness of the customers who would purchase their bargain-priced food. Their plan was to build a regional chain of restaurants, a few to be owned by the founders, but most to be operated by franchisees. And in keeping with their views regarding a fair franchise fee, they decided that franchisees would only pay a franchise fee of 2% of gross sales. There would be no real estate fee at Sandy's. In return for the franchise fee, Sandy's would provide the standardized menu with the know-how to prepare it and sell it. Sandy's would also provide support services in the areas of accounting, advertising, and general management. With the plan developed and the company established, Brick Lundberg assumed the responsibility for building the new chain. He traveled thousands of miles a month looking for locations and investors. He arranged training for each new partner. He helped the new partner arrange to build the store, and then to open it. Often, Brick's wife, Eleanor, would appear as Miss Sandy at the grand opening. On other occasions, a local lass would play the role of Miss Sandy. In either case, openings were always gala affairs. Once a store had been opened, Brick Lundberg worked long and hard to help it achieve its potential. He made regular visits to the stores. There, he talked with the employees, complimenting them on their successes and challenging them to make the most of their potential, not only at work, but also in life. His enthusiasm during such visits usually made a deep impression on the employees. Brick bombarded the stores with motivational letters, tape recordings, and posters with such messages as, "Enthusiasm works wonders," "Be a good listener," and "It takes a little extra to beat competition." Brick encouraged his manager partners to promote spirit-building group recreation activities. He believed that a successful business could be built with plenty of hard work, but also with a little bit of fun along the way. Brick himself held periodic regional meetings with Sandy's managers. At those meetings, there would be a noticeable amount of fun and camaraderie. But there would also be discussions of problems and opportunities. Brick would always introduce motivational material designed to send people back with a renewed determination to excel. As a result of Brick's efforts, the Sandy's chain had grown to more than 100 stores by 1965. Brick then decided that it was time for him to devote more time to his family and community. At his request, a management team was assembled. Brick became chairman of the board. Marty O'Connor was elected president and chief operating officer, and young Jack Lockery became vice president of operations. Brick then turned his attention to community problems. Of course, Brick had never totally neglected community affairs while building Sandy's. In 1958, for example, a major local company announced it was closing most of its Kewanee plants, thereby creating an unemployment problem for the community. Brick decided to help the community deal with the problem. He organized a corporation called Shares in Kewanee. Shares of stock in the corporation were sold to local citizens, and the money was used to attract new small businesses to Kewanee. Brick then searched for businesses to bring into the community. One which he lured in eventually employed 100 employees, making jackets for J.C. Penney Company and other customers. And on another occasion, Brick led an effort to pass a referendum authorizing the construction of an airport. In this case, the motive was to make travel into and out of Kewanee easier for businessmen, and thereby make Kewanee a more attractive place for the location of business offices and factories. But at the time he turned the daily management of Sandy's over to O'Connor and Lockery, Brick Lundberg's primary concern was to bring a community college to Kewanee. He committed himself to spend 1 year of intensive effort to the task. That effort eventually brought a branch of Black Hawk College to the community. For the first time in history, Kewanee young people could live at home and attend college. And today, when those students go to the college library, they will find a plaque dedicated to the man who made their education possible. While Brick was busy in civic affairs, the fast food industry changed in ways that dramatically raised the cost of doing business. One of those changes was in the area of menu expansion. In 1965, McDonald's introduced its first menu expansion by adding a fish sandwich. And in 1968, a large double burger, the Big Mac, was introduced. Sandy's countered with its own fish sandwich and a double burger called the Big Scott. Another major change was the development of indoor seating. Responding to the industry trend, Sandy's began to add tables in enclosed areas surrounding the existing stores. At the same time, plans were made to redesign the store to make it a true restaurant with indoor seating. Soon, the new stores were being erected at strategic locations. A third industry change was the emergence of national television advertising as a competitive tool. McDonald's launched its first national advertising campaign in 1967, and the pressure was on Sandy's to follow. As these changes began to impact on Sandy's, Chairman Brick Lundberg decided to return to full-time work with the organization. He asked young Jack Lockery to become president and work closely with him. Then, Brick turned to the task of expanding the chain so that it would remain competitive in the marketing arena. Brick's original plan was to raise growth capital through a public stock offering. McDonald's had done this successfully in 1965. However, before Brick could implement his plan, the stock market declined so severely that a stock offering was out of the question. And so Brick turned to a second alternative, a merger with another regional hamburger chain. The merger partner was an East Coast chain called Hardee's. Founded by Leonard Rawls, Hardee's had experienced a growth pattern similar to Sandy's. In fact, in 1969, the two chains were virtually identical in size. However, at that point, Hardee's was able to successfully make a stock offering before the stock market declined. As a result, after 1969, Hardee's had the capital to expand, and did so faster than Sandy's. On November 30th, 1971, Hardee's and Sandy's merged. A year later, the Sandy's stores changed their name to Hardee's. Getting the Sandy's franchisees to agree to the merger and the name change took a strenuous sales effort by Brick Lundberg. But he convinced almost all of his partners that the new company would be a more effective competitor in the 1970s by virtue of its size. And he assured them that the Sandy's people policies, which Brick personified, would continue by virtue of having young Jack Lockery serve as an officer of the new Hardee's. That is exactly what happened. Lockery soon became president of Hardee's and proceeded to make Brick Lundberg's people policies the cornerstone of the Hardee's organization. Using those people policies as Lundberg had taught him to use them, Lockery led Hardee's through a decade of growth and change, culminating in 1979 when, as the fourth largest hamburger chain, Hardee's outperformed the entire industry in terms of growth. Brick Lundberg did not live to see this final great performance. He died of cancer in 1977. But he did live to see Lockery transform the Hardee's organization into a group of hard-charging, enthusiastic business people who cared about one another, worked hard, and loved their work. And so he had the rare satisfaction of knowing that his management teachings and the example he set would live on.